All right, we're all set to go, which means turning off the air conditioning, getting into sport mode, getting into drive mode, getting into sport for the gearbox as well. Air conditioning is completely off, traction control off. Now that is what I call bravery. What happened? Don't worry. Traction control is not completely off, it's gone on sport. If we turn off traction control, then something like this will happen.
Have the feeling that we're sinking. I need to find a way.
Don't worry, that was very controlled and very much fun. Now that we are ready to go, wipers to be turned onto auto, heads up display is active, we are in sport mode as well, and actually we need to go into sport individual. So right now everything is on sport plus, so we are in sport individual. Hey BMW.
Hello, what can I help you with?
Sport displays.
Sport displays.
Thank you so much, and I love you too. Anyways, so everything is fine. I think any more setting for the car? We're good to go. All right, that's great. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving the motor. Little loss of traction and off we go. Let me tell you that the acceleration is absolutely mind-bogglingly brisk, and this motor is so fab. It is known as the B58. It's a 3-liter motor. It's an inline 6. Now inline 6 and straight 6 engines are not really the same. However, on BMW's official brochure it says inline 6, and everywhere else on the internet it says straight 6. So yeah, there is some confusion regarding that, but basically it's not a V6. That's what you need to understand. Now this one produces horsepower of 340 at 5000 rpm and peaks at 6500 rpm. Meanwhile, it's really the torque which is the name of the game here, because torque output is a mind-boggling 500 Newton meters, which comes in at a low 1600 rpm and peaks all the way at 4500 rpm, which gives it a very wide torque band. In fact, the torque rush is so great that there is no turbo lag whatsoever. There is just seamless power delivery, linear pull from this motor, and it absolutely delights the way this car pulls. It's extremely refined lower down, becomes very sporty as you rev it harder, and I'm not sure if you could hear that, but it pops and crackles and barks and barks and whatnot it does when you actually hit the throttle hard. So on upshifts there's sort of a kickback happening. Meanwhile on downshifts, or rather when you lift off the throttle, there's of course the pops and crackles which happen, which is absolutely soothing to the ears. Now you can hear better of it with the roof down, but because it's raining so much it's not possible to do it right now. Absolutely phenomenal motor. In fact, this motor is so good, it's so good that Wards Auto actually awarded it one of the best engines in the world. Top 10 mein, obviously. There is no undermining this motor. You want to make a quick overtake? Just seamless. The power delivery is so freaking fab. It's phenomenal. Any speed, any place, city, highway, track, just get onto the throttle. It will give you an immediate rush and pull hard and fast to the red line. And red line's at 7000 rpm. What a motor, what an engine. Now this is known as the B58. It's part of BMW's new modular platform of engines, and it's absolutely sensational the way it pulls. Now obviously this engine, the B58, replaces the N55 motor. Meanwhile, many of you would be wondering what is the N55 and why is it of relevance here, because the N55 was the older engine. The difference between both these engines is that this one actually uses a twin scroll turbocharging and a single turbo. The older predecessor of this engine, the N55, uses a single scroll turbocharger, but it has twin turbos. Now that one obviously is also fab. The sports version of that engine is known as the S55. The sports version of this engine, the B58, is known as the S58. So what is the difference and why is it of any relevance here? It is the fact that the car which is closest to this one in terms of giving you the thrills and the goosebumps is the BMW M2, M3 and M4, which is powered by the S55 motor. Obviously that is absolutely bonkers, but this one is just more refined and offers the goosebumps at every possible RPM, because it just pulls and it makes a pure symphony from the exhaust. It's mind-boggling the way BMW has tuned this engine to be supremely refined as well. Acceleration is so brisk and this motor really loves to rev. Now you can obviously manually take control of things using the steering mounted paddles, and when you do that you can obviously do it using the Tiptronic function on the gear lever as well. But once you do that, it's not going to upshift unless and until you decide to do so, giving you complete manual control of things. Now this is an 8-speed gearbox, it's a torque converter, it's very fast with shifts, it gives you downshifts, it gives you upshifts whenever you're looking for one, which makes it very sensational in terms of the way the gearbox actually responds. And there are 3 modes for the gearbox. There's a regular drive mode, there's a manual mode, there's a sport mode as well. The sport and manual are in the similar place, because when you put it on the left it actually comes into sport or manual, and in manual you have to actually tap one of the paddles to actually engage manual mode, and in manual mode it will not upshift unless and until you do so. It will not downshift either. So right now let me just get into the highest gear possible. Now I'm in the highest gear possible, which happens to be the 8th gear, and we are cruising along. I get hard onto the throttle, it will not upshift, it will just not upshift, and it will gather pace slowly and surely, and then it will punch real hard and fast as well. Now BMW also has a more powerful version of this engine which produces 380 horsepower, 40 more horsepower. I believe the Supra has that tune. However, BMW is not offering that engine where there has to be European compliance, because it's something to do with emission norms, because that 380 horsepower engine doesn't meet it. Unfortunately, here in India we get the European spec engine, otherwise you could have got 380 horsepower. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour takes 4.5 seconds. Top speed is limited to 250 kilometers per hour. But forget the numbers for a minute, because this car is more than the numbers on offer. It's just the sensation it offers when you get hard on the throttle. See, it's actually building revs very nicely, but it's only when you actually downshift then it pushes you back into the seat and really propels itself hard and fast ahead with a level of thrust which can put a massive smile on your face. All the power goes to the rear wheels. The rear wheels are obviously overwhelmed, especially in the wet, because traction levels are a bit compromised, and especially in this rainy condition, well, you really have to be careful or not, because obviously it's got a slew of technologies on offer. So here right now, as you can see, I'm driving this car, it's raining badly, and if visibility is poor, it's not an issue at all, because it has got collision assistance as well. What it will do right now, it will not detect, I assume, because the thing is the camera might be a little dirty. Otherwise what it does is it tells Volvo hold my beer, because whenever it judges some car is ahead, it will automatically give you a warning, and the cluster will actually turn red, and there'll be a warning on the heads up display, there'll be a warning on the instrument cluster as well, which will tell you that, hey boss, there is something ahead right now and you need to apply a brake. So that works really well on this vehicle. In fact, on the side mirrors as well, there's a blind spot assist which will tell you if there's someone in your blind spot. It will do automatic braking. There's cruise control which is adaptive, which will again automatically apply brakes in case there's someone ahead when you're doing cruise control as well. But really the thrill happens to be in this vehicle when you actually, okay, this is a bad pothole and ground clearance is kind of poor on this vehicle. So here, downshifting, 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 and oh my god, what brilliant thrust from this motor, and that downshift is absolutely mind-bogglingly awesome. Great. The thrust is amazing. So it's also got this very cool feature known as lane keep assist. Now obviously it blinks and shows you a warning if you're crossing the lane, and it's also able to pull you back into the lane, and sometimes it's so aggressive you have to actually fight with the steering when making a maneuver from one lane to another. When switching lanes, you really have to fight with the steering, because the lane keep assist puts its foot down and be like, no, you're going to stay in this lane and I'm going to put you back. Yeah, the steering actually auto maneuvers as well. Now BMW has achieved 50-50 weight distribution with this car, and that is the reason why they've opted for a soft top roof. Okay, its predecessor had a hard top roof, and the first generation model came with both a soft top as well as in a coupe, which meant that you could get the best of both worlds. But with the last generation Model 2, you could get the best of both worlds, because they didn't have to launch another soft top version, because the hard top itself a convertible, making the car convertible and coupe whenever you felt like. But with the third generation G29 model, they have opted for offering only a soft top roof with this vehicle. There is no coupe on offer for multiple reasons. Firstly is the weight reduction. This one weighs 50 kgs less than its predecessor. It is underpinned by the cluster architecture, or CLAR, of BMW. Yes, light in weight and extremely rigid and agile too. Now the good thing about this platform is obviously weight reduction and added rigidity. In fact, you cannot feel that this is a soft top in any way, because the sound insulation is great, and they have used aluminium in the roof in order to ensure that it's always rigid and you can't hear much of the outside. And you can't, because the insulation levels are absolutely mind-bogglingly brilliant on this vehicle. But you know, they have also launched a coupe version of this car. They wanted to differentiate the regular Z4 with the coupe version of the Z4. That's the reason why BMW opted for, you know, a different interior, a different exterior as well, and a lot of changes in the design. And they even decided to call it something else. They actually called it the Toyota Supra. Yeah, that's the reason why BMW has actually not offered a hard top with this vehicle, because the hard top version, or rather the coupe version, is the Toyota Supra. absolutely mind-boggling the way the exhaust works on this car. Okay, now obviously in sport mode the exhaust becomes louder because it has got active exhaust, and I believe it opens the valve and becomes extremely loud. There are 4 drive modes on offer. There's adaptive, which will actually adapt to the driving situation depending on the driving condition as well as the driver input. Then there is the Eco Pro mode, which also has a standard as well as an individual mode. There's comfort, and there is sport. Sport also has sport plus as well as individual, so you can configure a lot of things. Now this alters a lot of parameters like the engine, the gearbox, the transmission is actually the gearbox, and the dampers as well. It also alters the steering wheel, and the steering, although offers great feedback, it just lacks a bit in terms of feel at higher speeds. But that said, this is actually a very fun car to drive. The ride is on the stiffer side. The car itself is set up so stiff that you can feel the stiffness every given moment, and in sport mode the dampers become even more stiffer, and that is very uncomfortable over bad roads because it kind of gets tossed around. However, that said, by sports car standards, the ride quality is actually quite brilliant, I would say, because it still feels very composed. However, the ground clearance is pretty bad. You have to be really careful over bad roads, and the ground clearance is not adjustable on this vehicle. That said, this is absolutely brilliant the way the motor pulls, and I've said this a million times already, the motor is the gem of this package. So ride quality is not the best as far as Indian roads go, but handling is great, although this car loves sweepers more than it loves tight corners. So this is not a car for the track, it's more of a GT car. It's actually a roadster, so you can drive it long and have fun, but do not expect it to put a big smile on your face through the corners. Although body roll is very well contained, there's good amount of grip from the tires as well, and turn off traction control, you will not enter a corner straight and you will not exit a corner straight. You will just be doing like this and coming out of the corner because it is very tail happy a vehicle. High speed stability is also great. It actually gets a M Sport rear differential as well as M adaptive suspension, and that's not all. BMW has given it everything and more. It gets M brakes as well, which gives it great stopping power. Sure-footedness is the name of the game here. It just feels so sure-footed, so composed because of all the M bits thrown in. In fact, the seatbelt is also an M seatbelt. So should you buy a BMW Z4, Z4 or whatever you want to call it? Well, obviously I would recommend it. It's a brilliant car. It attracts a lot of attention, but for a change I'm not going to recommend the M40i. Instead, I'm going to recommend the S-Drive 20i. Yes, there's a lower variant on offer which uses a 4-cylinder engine and produces 200 horsepower and is 2 seconds slower than this one. But why so? Well, if you're buying a convertible like this or a car of this character, well, you want to attract a lot of attention and you want to get the wind in your hair feeling, which obviously the rupees 20 lakh cheaper model also offers. Actually less than 20 lakhs, it costs 82 lakhs. This one costs almost a crore rupees. So why not the Z4 M40i? Well, because for 2 lakhs more you can get a more potent vehicle, a car which drives even more better, is sleeper, and obviously looks stunning as well going sideways. It's none other than the BMW M2, which costs rupees 2 lakhs more than this vehicle but offers a lot more thrill. Not only if you're planning to buy a BMW for a crore rupees, you should opt for the M2, but if you're having a budget of rupees 1 crore, just close your eyes and get the BMW M2. It is just such a phenomenal vehicle. The Z4 also is absolutely mind-boggling. Get the S-Drive 20i, save some change and make a striking statement as well. I hope you can hear that. Launch control active. Car is going sideways. Yes, it has got launch control. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator will activate launch control. This car weighs around 1600 kgs, doesn't feel heavy at all, but you know, it has a fuel tank capacity of 50 liters and fuel economy is around 5 to 8 kilometers per liter depending on your driving style. Wind noise is very well contained. In fact, you can't hear the wind even at higher speeds. That is the level of, you know, insulation on offer inside the cabin. The cabin feels absolutely brilliant and this vehicle is absolutely sensational as well. So guys, this is my review of the BMW Z4, the M40i, and sorry about the whole Supra bit, but trust me, we should not bother about Supra versus Z4 because this car was actually conceptualized by both of them together because the volume is very less, around 5,000 units a year, out of which 4,000 is for the US market itself. So it doesn't really make sense to put in so much effort to develop a car like this. However, both of them came together, that's why we have this car, and obviously BMW supplied the engine, both of them worked together on the chassis and then they individually tuned it, they gave it different styling as well. But why even bothered about all this? Because at the end of the day, neither of the manufacturers is actually making this car, and they actually decided let's contract manufacture this vehicle, and they gave it to Magnaster from Australia to make this vehicle, which also makes the iconic Mercedes G63 AMG. I mean, you know, there's something underneath that hood which just wants to explode, and as I get into the throttle, there it revs so fast and we are off. It does move around, but then traction kicks in. So guys, I think I am okay. Stop moving your hand. This is not a rap which is going on, but since this vlog has really extended a lot of time and I'm just keeping talking all the time because I don't know what's happening. There's certain features which have not been working, unfortunately, but as you see, the car is brilliant and I love it to the core. It attracts a lot of attention, although yes, performance is mind-boggling. Handling could have been better. The steering could have offered more feel. That said, I've been speaking at 1000 minutes per second, so I should end this vlog right now. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time, and I hope you can hear the machine gun firing because it's like bye bye.
How was you talking?